evening. Good evening. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White, our Wednesday evening edition. Listen, are you listening?
I'm listening.
We're all ears.
We're so happy to be here. If you are joining us, excuse me, I want to tell you thank you. We want to tell you thank you. Excuse me. We also want you guys to do what? Like, subscribe, and share. And tell all your friends about the greatest show on what? These YouTube streets. You can catch us on all social media platforms. And you can also join us in the comment section. Hello, Mr. 123, Dominic, Richmond, Janet, Saluk, and Dwayla. Boy, I don't know why I'm coughing, but it's not as bad as it used to be. So, who do we have on deck today? We have Allan Lengel. Hey, excuse me. Excuse me.
Excuse you.
And oh, just because you had that new smile, you got jokes. You got jokes.
No.
I'm just messing with you. And Jim Nardone, of Trenton, former chief of police for the Trenton Police Department. So, I don't know. Should I bring it up or you want to bring it up? Should we address the elephant in the room?
Well, it's not an elephant, but I want to say hi, Dwayla. Janet.
Oh, he said it correctly, Dwayla.
Dwayla and Dwayne.
I lost you.
I was saying I went to school with the guy, Dwayne Wright.
Right, we were playing last week. Right.
Great guy.
That was funny.
Dwayla, Janet, Mr. 1213, Dominique Richmond, Karen Winston, Janet Overall, Jill Sheridan. Hi. You guys make the show. And let's talk about why they make the show, Vanessa.
They make the show because not only do they like, subscribe, and share, they make the comments. They inform us. They entertain us. They keep us on our toes.
And they stood up
for that. Okay,
they stood up
for that. Absolutely.
For what you're going to talk, what you're going to mention right now. Without them, this wouldn't happen.
So listen. So we've had people ask over the last 6 or 7 weeks about Adolph. Okay, Adolph. And it's natural. We expect for you guys to ask because he's on the show. He's been on the show every time that he can be on the show. He's on the show. He's the anchor of the show. Adolph is doing great. Adolph will be back on the show real soon. So we want to let you guys know that he is doing great. He is fine. If people have any questions, if you're close to him, you could call his family member and ask questions. Now, why did I do that? Because what you guys didn't know is somebody decided to be very, very petty and vindictive and has not talked to him at all. Haven't talked to him in probably over a half of a year and puts out this crazy rumor. So if you are a close family friend, if you're really concerned, you ask about him. Call him. You could contact his family and ask about him. But he is doing, I'm telling you, Jim and Allan, all of us can vouch, he is doing great. He will be joining us very, very soon. He is really excited to getting back talking smack and spitting knowledge, giving us knowledge and education. Okay?
Go ahead, Allan. Do you have something? Because I was going to follow up on that.
Go ahead. Go for it.
I'm just going to give it from my perspective. Detroit in Black and White is Adolph Mongo's show. And for myself, I'm just a very small part of the program. I enjoy being a part of it. I enjoy Vanessa and Allan and Adolph. And more, just as importantly, I enjoy all the comments and our friends out there, because without you, we would not have gotten through this stretch. And I'm grateful for your contribution.
Okay, Allan, what did you want to say?
I don't want to say much. I just want to say the Tigers won today, 93. I thought they were done with it. They were losing 3-0. I said they're done with, and then their bats came alive and they won. The city of Detroit is jubilant, and Tigers play Friday in Seattle. So I'm happy about that. And Happy. I do talk to it all people today, and happy that he's going to be coming back. But anyways, and there's a lot going on in the news today. I don't know if you're following in Israel and between the Gaza and Israel. The Hamas has agreed at least to the phase one of an agreement, which is I think, it's an exchange of hostages for prisoners, and then there's some other things going on in terms. There's more to come. Whether Hamas, well, there's going to be Egyptians or a multinational group ruling the Gaza, and there's a lot still to be done. There's always the possibility of something being sabotaged, but people seem to be optimistic, and so I'll try to be optimistic. We've seen it for 2 years. Some of the crazy yesterday. October the 7th was the anniversary, this 2-year anniversary of the attack on Israel, and then Israel retaliated. It's been just a mess, and we have here, in Metro Detroit, we have a large Jewish population, we have a large Arab population, a Muslim population, and it's been painful for a lot of people on both sides, and majority of people do want peace, and we're hoping for peace. And there's still a lot to go, and I don't agree with a lot that Donald Trump has done, but I'll give him kudos for this, for finally putting the pressure on both sides to come to the table in a serious manner. So, anyways.
Okay. I want to address last Saturday our topic veered towards the former mayor of the city of Detroit, which was Kwame Kilpatrick, in his interview, and I'm hoping that our co-host of Detroit Black and White watched the interview. But his mom passed yesterday.
Right.
Very, 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 very sad. And if people paid attention to his interview, he talked about his mother and how he was regretful that her career suffered as a result of what he was going through legally. And I've seen tributes going out to Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick. I will say that my prayers and thoughts go out to the family. For those people who were very nasty and vile, because I saw some comments in the comment section saying very negative things. Listen, if you really, as a parent, as a daughter, listen, his mother was his mother. She's going to support her son. Okay, that doesn't mean she supports any wrongdoings, and I think she basically said that. I feel that it was wrong that her political career she lost her political career as a result of what was going on with him. And I think it's unfair for people to criticize her because he was a grown behind man. And as grown people, we have to take accountability for our actions. Now, whether, people could argue whether or not he took accountability or not, but the fact of the matter is she was not responsible. She was not put on trial or anything like that. But people tend to forget the things that she did as the congresswoman for was it the 13th district at the time? I forgot what district it was.
13th.
Yeah, she brought a lot of money back to Michigan on behalf of Michiganders for us to benefit. So I think that we should be, we should respect the family, because the family has lost a titan, the matriarch of the family. As Michiganders, we lost a former congresswoman
and state rep for almost 20 years.
State rep, absolutely. And someone that was very well respected in not just the community, but in the political community. So I just want to acknowledge the life and legacy of Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, and the fact that the family is mourning the loss, but may she rest in paradise. Yeah, Alan.
I did an obituary last night on her, and I did quote Adolph Mongo, and I'll read his quote. He says, "She was a pretty good elected official. She fought for Detroit. It's
Hmm.
just unfortunate Kwame got caught up in all that BS. It killed her career, and it shouldn't have." When Kwame started getting in trouble in 2008, he had all the issues with the text messaging scandal, got charged criminally for lying in courts. And at that time, she became vulnerable. And there were two, Mary Waters, who was a state rep, and Martha Scott, another state rep, ran against her in 2008. She squeaked by, but in 2010, I think Kwame's legal problems were such overbearing, and State Senator Hanson Clark, defeated her in the primary, and she went on to win. Interestingly, she rose. She was a school teacher, went to University of Michigan, got a master's degree in teaching. She was a school teacher, and then she ran for state rep, and she was there for a long time. In '96, she ran against Congresswoman Barbara Rose Collins, who faced criticism for absenteeism and her scrutiny. She was scrutinized by the House Ethics Committee for campaign finance violations. She beat Collins in the primary by 20 points, and she went on to win the general election. She was there for a long time in Congress, and then I think all the family matters sort of caught up with her.
It's tragic. It's tragic that she's forever linked to Kwame Kilpatrick when she didn't do anything to deserve.
Well, it's her son. It's hard not to be linked to him.
I understand it. I'm talking about as an elected official. She didn't do anything to. She's linked to him, of course. She's linked to him, and the comments that Deborah Harris, we love Mrs. Carolyn Kilpatrick, and Eric points out, as you did, Alan, that she's a former school teacher. More teachers in politics and less businessmen. You don't like my music. That's a great point. Good evening, Derek. The left aren't celebrating anything. Those are trolls. That was an excellent interview. Dominique Richmond. Praise and love to Kwame and his family.
I'm glad you watched it, Dominique. I watched it again, and I'm going to watch it again because there's a few things that I was like, did I get that? But yeah,
God bless.
Yeah. I did watch. I watched it. It was about to.
Mr. Duckett. Thank you.
I was about to pop a story on it last night, and then I saw that his
mother passed away.
Condolences to him. So I thought I'd hold off on running the story. But
condolences from Eric to his mom and the Kilpatrick family. Yeah. You don't like my music. He had a question for you, Alan. You can think about it. Both sides of what? I think he's referring to your point about Gaza, what's going on over there.
What's the question?
I think you made a point. I think you were talking about both sides of the.
I was saying that both sides are hoping for peace. I know they were letting in now. I don't know if it's 400 trucks a day now, and they're going to increase that. I mean, the Gaza is a mess. It's decimated. The whole area is messed up. I mean, you think of the trauma on both sides, and there's a lot of PTSD. I mean, we saw that in America from the Vietnam War. We saw all the, we still see some of the veterans who are still suffering from the Afghanistan war and the Iraq wars and stuff like that. Wars are just traumatic. People see traumatic things and great losses and stuff, and so I really, really hope we can see peace.
And Eric wants to talk about allowing the kid to bring the knife to school. And I think the mother is the one that walked through the metal detector. Good evening, Edward A. Mr. Duckett, go Tigers. Prisoners with no or trumped up charges. That's high praise, Jim. I absolutely believe that. You don't like my music. I feel that. And I appreciate you. Great. Now that you three continue to do a great job, we're going to keep trying, Mr. MR 1213. We're doing the best we can. Janet, positive thoughts for Adolph. Thank you. And you don't like my music's not contact anyone's family. That's kind of where I am. Let's let people do what they need to do.
The reason I said that is because I talk to them regularly, and I talk to the missus. And of course, her position is, people, we know that people are concerned. People, I mean, listen, he hasn't been here. And so she said, if somebody, because something, like I said, somebody, and when you mess with our family, when you mess with the Detroit black and white family, that's, you don't like my music, Eric Brown, Mr. Duckett, Dominique, Jill Sheridan, Janet, Dewayla, Cynthia, all of you. When you mess with us as a family, we're not going to stand for it. We have your back. So the reason I said that is because I talked to the missus and she said, if somebody is really concerned and if they really know us, then you could call us and ask. But if
But
you
you're giving the
don't,
message. You're giving
exactly.
the message to all our
Exactly.
friends out there. Adolph is going to be just fine. G Money, greetings to you. Cynthia Johnson, Jill. Yes, kind of, Jill. Kind of.
What Jill
Answer your
say?
question. Kind of right.
Yeah, he
Deborah
is on
Harris.
vacation. Yep.
He
Um,
didn't quit, Gary McCrae. He didn't quit. He'll be back in very short order. Stick around because it'll get better. It's always better with Adolph.
yep,
I see
absolutely.
the question. You don't like my music, as you think Netanyahu and Trump are hoping for peace. I'd say Trump. I'd say Netanyahu's getting his arm twisted in the same way that Hamas is getting its arm twisted. And I think the Israeli people and the Palestinian people want peace. So it doesn't matter, what's behind it all. The end result is the most important thing.
Thank you, True Sensation. Money up front in Detroit. Thank you. If True Sensation says it, I'm going to tell you it's always true. She is True Sensation.
So listen, Eric wants to talk about this mom. I'm not familiar with the story, but based on what he just said, that now you talking about outrageous. You mean to tell me a grown behind woman went to a school with a knife? The guard let her in, even though the metal detector went off, and she went in because she's taking a weapon to her kid to attack another kid? That's crazy.
It is crazy, but
That
don't we have a
that is
commercial?
insane. And I hope they arrested her behind it. I am a defense attorney, but I'm a mother too. I'm a grandmother. That's crazy. So hopefully she has some reasonable explanation as to why she did that.
That's the early report, so I
What
guess we're
school
going
was this, Eric? What school was this?
Should we take a break?
Yeah, we should.
Homeownership opportunities are rising in the city of Detroit, and there's a house out there that's right for you and your family. You don't even have to worry about credit or getting a loan. You can win a house for as little as $1,000 and pay for the renovation cost as you go. It all starts at buildingdetroit.org and the Detroit Land Bank Authority. Our auction and Own It Now programs offer a variety of houses in neighborhoods all over the city of Detroit. These homes are in desperate need of repair and new ownership. You can begin by going to our interactive map and detailed property listings to find the right fit for you. It won't be easy, and renovation costs are not cheap, but our compliance team is there every step of the way. We will help you track your progress and connect you with local discounts to save you more money. We have already sold more than 15,000 homes in the city of Detroit, and our inventory is shrinking fast, so you don't want to miss out on this wonderful opportunity. Start your home buying journey today by visiting buildingdetroit.org.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
We're back, Detroit in Black and White, our Wednesday evening edition. Thank you guys so much for watching Detroit in Black and White. If you're watching, we want you to hit that like, subscribe button, and we want you to share and tell everybody about the greatest show, What on These YouTube Streets. So I want to get back to the story about this lady. It's a Detroit public school. Yes, the kid will be expelled from Detroit Public School Community District, and both the mom and the children were arrested, as they should be. Now, in light of the fact that wasn't it just last week we were talking about, Allan, you were talking about gun violence, and we were talking about people taking guns in school, and I even talked about, me teaching on a college campus, how we don't have that type of security. Here we are, a school in the city of Detroit that has security, that has metal detectors. Okay, great. They arrested the mom and the kid. What happened to the security guard? Why have a metal detector if you're going to let her walk through? That's crazy. Now, you're talking about some accountability. There needs to be some accountability there. Then we have somebody else that's talking about the 31-year-old in Texas who unalived 2 of her kids and injured 2 more, and her 17-year-old is missing. He says now that is mental illness, and that needs to be addressed here on the home front. I absolutely agree. I did hear about that story. Actually, I thought I read it on my phone. I saw that story. This is outrageous, and things are getting, unfortunately, people are getting bolder. Things are getting worse. What's your opinion on this, Allan?
I'm sorry, I was reading a message. Say that one more time.
We're talking about the incident at the DPSCD school today, as well as the incident in Texas where you have a 31-year-old who unalived 2 of her kids and injured 2 more, and her 17-year-old is missing. And it is G Money Hollywood who's saying that this is mental illness, and that needs to be addressed here on the home front.
I mean, it's always interesting when we have, I was up in Grand Blanc for the church shooting. I was reporting on that, and obviously there's mental illness involved in there. I mean, for the guy to do what he did, and when these things happen, one group yells, "This is another." I mean, the guy was using an assault weapon. This is another reason for some better, tighter gun controls or whatever. Another side says this is a mental health issue. And then another side says the prayers are out there for you. The prayers are nice. Obviously, it's good intention. But, we have mental health. There's a mental health component. There's a weapon component. We don't do neither one gets, we keep cutting on mental health. We keep, we see in the Michigan budget, there's cuts in mental health and stuff like that. You can't be dismissive of the weapons and say, oh, guns kill people, but it's mental health, and then do nothing about mental health. It's really both. But, obviously there are people with mental health issues who don't have access there. I know from friends who have had children who have had mental health issues and stuff like that. You really have to do horrible things before you finally get committed to a psychiatric hospital for an extended stay. Most of the time it's a very short stay. They have psychiatric wards at, the different hospitals. People don't stay very long, and it's a very temporary thing. They go back out. Then they get them in a group home. Maybe they stab somebody at the group home, and then they go to jail, and then they try over again. They give them meds and stuff like that. I mean, we have to have a commitment to dealing with mental health. It's a serious issue in this country, and we need to do more and more. And, really, even in the schools, there's just not enough, I think, extension of social workers dealing with kids who are acting out, kids who are, being violent in school.
But Allan, in this instance, you have a grown behind parent taking a weapon into the school, a knife.
Right.
So to assist her child in, I guess, attacking some other kid. Right. Now, listen.
How healthy is that woman?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's mental illness or not. It wasn't a gun. It was a knife. For her to have all to go up in the school and for the guard to let her get through, that is crazy. What happened to the guard? Why does the guard the guard probably doesn't have a job now, but what's the sense of having a guard and metal detector? If you're not going to use it? if you're going to disregard the metal detector.
That's exactly what happened in Oxford. You know, just yesterday. So just yesterday, Teresa and I meet. Teresa, who's helps produce the show, does most of the
Lady
production.
T.
And I meet at a Kroger in Southgate. It's a full service Kroger. It's beautiful. They have everything there. Just yesterday, it looks like a 23-year-old stabbed another 23-year-old to death in that Kroger yesterday that we're at every day. And it's in suburban. It's in Southgate, right at Pennsylvania and Ford Street. So tragic. I mean, what is that has to be mental. Who does something like that? I mean, it could be a domestic case. We don't know the details yet, but
he was an employee. One was an employee,
right?
Supposedly a customer. They knew each other. Right. They got into an argument. I think that's the other thing, is that people are so impulsive and not thinking of the consequences. We see it so often where these kids, you know, these teenagers are going in and doing drive-bys and stuff like that, not thinking of the consequences that their life is over in terms of having freedom and all that comes with freedom in this country. We have so many young, I used to cover the prison system of the Detroit News. I would be up in like Jackson at the intake center. You'd see all these young kids coming in and, you know, and return visits, you know, and it's just, you know, some of, you know, the anger issues and stuff like that. People are so impulsive. You know, the kids, the kid the 4-year-old boy who got shot at the park, somebody messed with the guy's hat or something on the bus, and him and a friend showed up at the park and killed, I think it was an 18-year-old, killed the 4-year-old and maybe wounded a 17-year-old. Why? Because I mean, your life's ruined. Your family's life, you know, is suffers from that. I don't, you know, there's an impulsiveness there that's needs to be dealt with. You know, when we know people have bad tempers, we need to address those people, you know.
And we learned today that the person that killed 12 and caused, I think, billions of dollars worth of damage in California, the Pacific Palisades fire, I should say. He just liked to see fire, and he just destroyed, you know, hundreds of acres and thousands
of homes,
of homes because he wanted.
And dead. How many? There were
12 dead. 12 dead. You know, they said on the news tonight he's facing 20 years. What do you mean 20 years? That should be.
It's murder, right?
Yeah, you would think. In California, they do things a little differently, I think, but it should be 12. It should be 20 life sentences he's facing.
I'm sure they can find a homicide.
I don't know about that, but one of our viewers said, I think it was Edward A. He says he understands mental illness, but sometimes people are just evil and do evil things. I think I said that a couple of weeks ago. It's not always mental illness. People just mean, nasty, and just. I will agree with Edward. Some of them are just evil. Now, if you want to label evil as being mental illness, I guess, okay. There was something else that you said earlier, Allan. You talked about mental illness. You said prayer. You think that will be good intentions. And you talked about gun control. So I want to ask you this. I'll put you on the spot. Do you think prayer works?
You know, I mean, not in that, you know, not in an instance where like the children in Sandy Hook are killed. I mean, it's a nice gesture to say our prayers are with you. It's like saying condolences, like when you say to somebody when they lose a family member, your condolences. But, you know, these are serious issues that just being dismissed. I think it's too dismissive to say, you know, that's it for politicians to say prayers are with you. It's like, look, the guy who in just Grand Blanc right down the road, that guy lit the church on fire and opened fire and stuff. You don't think that guy did have mental health, a history of mental health. The guy
and kids at home.
The guy at Walmart who, you know, had a history of mental health where they were trying to track him down and get him committed. I'm telling you, the system is not set up to do long-term care. And so there's a very short-term thing where they medicate people up and say, okay, you got to go. We're going to find some placement. We'll get you some, you know, therapy or whatever. But there's a lot of ticking time bombs out there, and people who have families who deal with that on a regular basis. What's the solution? I mean, there is no one solution, but we need to have better people. People who need help. You know, I found I was watching the Daily Show the other night. It was fascinating, talking about AI and how intrusive it is becoming. And there was one kid they were talking about. He started using AI as a tutoring device, and then he developed a relationship with AI where he had conversations and asked questions. And at one point he said, I'm suicidal. He's telling AI, I'm suicidal. I'm thinking of putting a noose in my room as a cry for help so my parents understand that. And AI said, no, you can tell me. And kid committed suicide. That's, people are turning to AI for that type of help when it's scary. It's scary, but that I'm digressing a little bit, but I think we need more mental health access.
So, G Money Hollywood, and then first of all, I'm going to address you don't like my music. You don't. I like my music said in the 1970s. When they closed down basically the insane asylum because they were horror chambers. That is his because they were finally exposed as horror chambers
or warehouses.
Or warehouses. And there will be some people who will say, well, they could say the same thing for prisons. They could say the same thing for detention centers for children. They could say the same thing about a whole lot of these places where they hold people who they say have mental illness. The other thing is, the reason I ask you, do you think that prayer works? We have a lot of people who watch Detroit in Black and White who believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the power of prayer, but I also believe that faith without works is dead. You can pray, but there's going to have to be some work that has to go along with it. And I think that's what you were trying to say. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what you were saying.
I'm not saying that. I'm not being
dismissive about prayer.
Yeah, I'm not being dismissive of prayer. Look at the world. I mean, look at the churches and synagogues and mosques and and Hindu temples and all that. I mean, people do need spiritual nourishment. They have to believe. The world is so scary. People need to believe there's a God and need to turn to God. And I mean, the world's crazy. And I wrote out a post on Facebook.
That's a generalization.
Well, let me just say, I wrote and said, the world sometimes seems like it's lost and the leaders are broken compasses. And I think that it's a generalization, but
yeah,
it's a very difficult challenge for this country and for other countries to. Are you guys still there? It's me. I think something's going on here. To deal with these complex problems, and there's a series of solutions, and we're not out of the batter's box yet. So people have to work together to solve these solutions. People have to come to the table. These are huge solutions, huge problems that require many solutions. The young lady that died at Henry Ford Hospital in that basement there, in that dirty, I won't call it dirty, cold basement, right? Mm-hmm. She had the paper in her hands to protect her from that man that killed her. But that paper didn't save her life, did it?
Right. I want to address G Money Hollywood. He's been very active in our comment section. He says, we have no idea. He's talking about the parent that took the knife to school. He says, we have no idea how old the parent was. With these kids having kids, she may have been 17 to 19 years of age and had the kid at 12 or 13, like the lady in Texas had her first kid at age 14. That very well may be true. But guess what? You know the difference between right and wrong. And you know that when you went up to that school with that knife and went through that metal detector and went off, that you wasn't supposed to have it. That's not an excuse for her behavior. That may be somewhat of an explanation, But you know the difference between right and wrong.
Do they?
If you're-
Do they answer that? I mean, you're suggesting that you're making an assumption that people. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
these people don't seem like they know the difference between right and wrong. A guy that starts a fire that destroys, kills people and destroys, he doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. I don't see that. I don't understand that.
I don't know. I don't know.
Make it make sense.
I do believe
You
there's
deal
a
with criminals.
between
You,
right and wrong. I do believe
yeah. Look, you both deal. Jim, you've dealt with criminals, and Vanessa,
Yes.
you represent some people
Yes.
who are charged criminally, and they know right and wrong. They just don't. They don't morally embrace right. They understand the distinction. They understand they're going to get in trouble if they get caught. So they know right or wrong, but they just don't value right over
Right.
wrong. You know?
Absolutely. So I personally, G Money, Hollywood, you may very well be correct. But I say this, whether she had them at 14 or 10, and she might be, 19 or whatever the case may be. You know the difference between right and wrong. And now, because she has to deal with the criminal justice system, I bet you, she will say, either she's going to say I'm wrong or I'm not. But she's probably, going to say, yeah, I should not have taken that knife into the school. I mean, that's just crazy. That is insane.
But we look at well, you're a criminal defense attorney, Vanessa. We look at the world differently than criminals look at the world. I think that's the point. The three of us might go have 3 drinks or 2 drinks and have maybe one too many. We decide I can leave my car in the corner, I can get a ride, or I can call somebody. People that don't think the way we do, they just get in their car and drive, whether they've had 3 drinks or 13 drinks, right?
That doesn't mean that they don't know the difference between right and wrong, Jim. That means that, to Allan's point, they're just like,
they don't care.
Bump it. I'm gonna do what the heck I want to do.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. That doesn't mean they don't know that they should not do it, especially when you listen. You just gave me. I talked to somebody the other day. Third OWI. You think that person don't know the difference between right and wrong? 3 times?
Explain that to our viewers, and that's what OWI.
Operating while impaired, driving a vehicle. 3.
So they made a decision 3 times to drive a vehicle while intoxicated.
I made the decision. These
that you
kids,
know of.
Right. Just like I made the decision, they messing with my daughter, they effing with my daughter, bump this. Maybe she did go and talk to the principal. Maybe she did talk to the people at the school. At the end of the day, though, ma'am, there was no reason that you should have taken a knife to the school. Okay? Not at all. So you know the difference between right and wrong. I believe that.
Yeah,
people commit crimes for all kinds of different reasons.
It's like people are in the criminal world. Some who that's their full-time job. They know right and wrong. They just don't. They don't value. They don't value the right and wrong.
Why don't you tell us about the Chambers brothers, Allan, and how their mental health was and how they conversed about committing their crimes? I think that's fascinating.
Well, I mean,
people that don't know, please tell them what we're talking about.
Well, the Chambers brothers were 4 brothers from Arkansas who I wrote about. I covered their trial. I wrote about them, and I had conversations with them from prison after they were convicted, and one for quite a while, actually, Billy Joe. And they organized this drug ring. They became, they sort of rose through the ranks where they grew and grew on the East Side, where they were controlling in the mid 80s to late 80s the crack. They became a very, very big organization, and they were so organized. They had payday on like Friday or whatever, and everyone would come up to a certain house and they would come up and get their pay. They had rules on the house. And all the crack houses, like no visitors, no this, no that. But they were also, not all of them, but a couple, they were violent. You can't run a big drug organization and not be involved in some violence. You have to have, that's just, or you get taken over. And did they know the difference between right and wrong? Yeah, I think they knew, but I don't think they cared. I think they were making so much money. They were so powerful. And the problem is, during the trial, one of the drug agents said, we started hearing the name, the Chambers brothers, and the bigger they got. And that's what happened in the drug world in Detroit, is these gangs would get so big. And then the next, it was originally Young Boys Incorporated, then Pony Down, and the Chambers brothers, the Best Friends, and they got so big that they became so prominent, and they became on the radar of police. And so then after that, you started seeing smaller organizations that tried to fly below the radar, but they knew that. I talked to those guys. I used to talk to Richard Worsey for decades.
White boy, Rick.
I talked to Johnny Curry when he was in prison. These guys all knew the difference, but they made so much money, and in their world, they weren't bad. They weren't looked at as evil. They were looked at as successful.
That's interesting. You bring up Mr. Curry, and you also bring up Mr. Worshey. They had Kathy in common. Let me stop. Anyway, listen, one of our viewers, I don't know where this come from. This is kind of like random. Mr. Evans, he says, why do people hate President Trump? 30 black men getting shot every weekend in Chicago. The mayor and his wife as 25 police each. What's wrong with any help? National Guard, Batman, or Robin? You want to answer that question, Allan? I don't speak for all people, but
yeah,
I'm going to reverse the question. I'm going to ask him, and he need to comment. Why do you love President Trump so much? Okay, go ahead, Allan.
I'm going to say, look, I've said this before, and I've said this on the show. Crime is a problem, all over the world, whether it's suburbs or the city, but in the city, it's been tolerated for far too long in some neighborhoods where every night there's gunshots, there's people, whatever. There's criminal activity happening in certain neighborhoods. People are afraid to go out. And so I agree with the president, and I won't say that very often. I agree that it's an issue that needs to be addressed, but he doesn't address it in the proper way. He sends the National Guard in to bully. It's not the way to address things long term. You're sending in at a high expense. Instead of hiring, you want to hire more officers, you want to do more community activities, whatever, anti-violence groups or whatever, community groups. He's just using his brute force to stick it to Democrats. And his method is all wrong. His idea, the concept of addressing it as a crisis is right, but he doesn't address it in the right way. It's just egotistical, and he tries to, it's us against them. We're the same country. He misses.
Should we take a break? And I have a
break, and then we'll go to Jim, and then I'll come back.
I just have a quick correction to make from Saturday's show, if I could.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. Are you living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, or maybe you know someone who's in the same situation? The probate process may be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. We have several nonprofit partners who have free attorneys who can assist you. Contact our office, 313-224-5990, or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. Don't lose your family property. Some of these properties have been in the family for 4 or 5 generations. Contact us now. We're here to help.
We're back, Detroit in Black and White, our Wednesday evening edition, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. You have Allan Lengel, Jim Nardone, and myself, Vanessa Moss. If you're watching, you know what we want you to do. Hit like, subscribe, and tell your people about what the greatest show on these YouTube streets. You can catch us on all social media platforms. You can catch us every Wednesday, Friday from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and every Saturday morning from 10 o'clock a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. All right, Jim, go ahead.
Very briefly, I just want to cover something that I covered on Saturday. I always love this quote in the song. It's a redemption song by Bob Marley and the Wailers. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. I attributed that to Bob Marley. It was originally made, that statement, a little bit different, by an activist, a Jamaican activist in 1937, Marcus Garvey, who died in 1940. I just want to make sure. I believe there's a Marcus Garvey Academy in Detroit. I don't know if that's private or public, but he's the one that originally made that statement. And I still think it's a brilliant statement. So,
Okay, I concur. I want to address Jill Sheridan. Jill said we're beyond Batman and Robin. I agree. I think Allan would agree. I think Jim would agree. We're losing our rights and are under siege by our own government. Not cool. Jill, I concur. I concur. I concur. I don't know if people paid attention to, there's a story where the current administrator is firing judges. Due process is under siege. And listen, I have always said no one person does everything wrong and you don't do everything right. But one of the things that we lean on as Americans, I don't care if you're a DRIG whatever the case may be, we have something that's called the United States Constitution. And we also have something that Jim has talked about several times. We have due process. When you start messing with judges and telling them, listen, you can't serve as a judge anymore, y'all don't think that that's a problem?
Okay.
Because once you start doing things like that, it has started. It has started. That is a problem. I agree with you, Allan, when you say crime is an issue. I agree with the current administrator that crime is an issue. But certainly painting, because that's all it is, the National Guard is not even a Band-Aid, okay? Jim has talked about it as a police officer, as a chief of police. They don't know the community. This is just a dog and pony show as far as I'm concerned. If you really want to address crime, you're going to really address crime. You haven't done that. So to answer your question, sir, this person is flawed like so many of us are. But to say, listen, I think that the National Guard is the answer is not. It's not working. You just said in your comment that people are getting killed left and right, even with the presence of the National Guard. It's not going, it is not working. It's not going to work. It may be something to scare people for a minute, but it's not going to solve the issue. G Money says the mass media is designed to exploit crime in urban areas and cover up crime in suburban areas. If he's going to deploy, make it equal across the board. Yes, crime happens in the suburbs often. Crime is an epidemic. Yes, Allan, go ahead.
I agree. Look, there's plenty of crime in a lot of suburbs, but it was interesting. This was several years ago. One of the commentators for Deadline Detroit said, all you ever do is cover crime in the city, and what about the suburbs? And I went back and checked over a 2-week period. We had 7 crime stories in Deadline Detroit. 4 were in the suburbs and 3 were in the city. So I think some of that is, there's plenty of crime happening, in Warren. We see it in Southfield. We see it wherever. We see it in West Bloomfield. We also see it in Detroit. Detroit's a bigger city, so we're going to see more. I mean, there's no city in comparison in the metro area size-wise than Detroit. Detroit's whatever it is, 600 and plus something. The next biggest city is probably Warren. With I don't know what Warren's population is, but it's not nearly.
It's a big city. It's the third largest city in Michigan.
And downriver there's cities, but they're not nearly as big as. And there's crime downriver. There's crime in every community we have. So, but I agree. The National Guard is not the issue, but it's being used as a bullying tool to humiliate politicians and Democrats. And so,
and we should
Go
we
ahead.
should talk about the Constitution a little bit more. Do you want to cover a couple of these comments? Are we all caught up on commercials? Are we done there?
Well, we're
No.
done with commercials. I can
Okay.
address a couple of the comments.
Yes.
It's Kenneth Reed, which is a very compelling a comment. He says, war has been waged on the citizens of America. When at war, there are two rules. Rule one, there are no rules. Rule two, always refer to rule number one. The Dems are finally becoming to come to that conclusion. Jill Sheridan says, it's a dangerous dog and pony show. You don't like my music? He said, crime is down, but news coverage is way up. Deborah Harris says Donald Trump wants to be USA's first king. And Miss Sheila said, Miss Vanessa, we need to fire judges locally. Where is justice? It's relationships and money dance. Well, Miss Sheila, you know how you can get rid of judges? Don't vote for them the next time they are for election.
And
That's
Mr.
rid of them.
1213, video was made by young thugs in Chicago threatening to shoot the National Guard if they are deployed to Chicago. Well, that in itself is pretty scary. I want to go back to, I don't know if it was last week or on Saturday's show. Bob Marley isn't Gavin Newsom. That's true. And music does mean something. I agree with you. We learn a lot from music. But we had a question about the United States government killing drug runners off the coast. I guess South America, is that where they're killing drug runners? I can't imagine what would happen in this country if some people were smuggling cocaine from Central America and Colombia or Venezuela killed U.S. citizens off the coast of San Diego, what our government would do. So the point is, everybody needs to be held accountable to the U.S. Constitution. And as I said, when somebody called me out, basically said, what do you think about this? He or she are not here tonight, I don't think. But that's an act of war. When you go and kill citizens of another country, I know President Obama did it in the Middle East with a drone. It happens. Those were targeted terrorists, known terrorists. Now, I think that's a little different than a couple guys, 10 or 12 guys running a boat with, a few hundred kilos of cocaine. I don't want that cocaine in this country, but intercepting them and sending them back or whatever would be the solution. Killing residents of another country, to me, is an act of war. So,
yeah. Karen Winston and Dwayla had mentioned this, and we didn't get to it Saturday. Hopefully Friday we'll get to it. But Karen Winston is talking about she says the onset of a civil war may be imminent. These mass agents are wrong. She's talking about these mass ICE agents, right? So we're talking about crime. If that's not criminal, I don't know what is. Why are you masked? If you already have, right, the government on your side, you say that you're an ICE agent, you acting under the color of as an ICE agent. Why do you have to go and arrest people with a mask on? And what happened in Chicago? Dwayla brought it up, and one of our other viewers brought it up last week. That is outrageous. I will opine that is illegal. It's bad. It's just a horrible situation.
They arrested people who are American citizens. They tried to explain to them. They ignored it. They detained it. And then my niece has a friend, this couple she's friends with. The guy is Mexican. He was trained as a lawyer in Mexico. They were living here in the Detroit area, and they have a child, and they moved back to Mexico because he did not feel, and he had the proper papers and everything, but he did not feel safe appearing to be Hispanic here in this country. And I think that's not what we really want to send. I mean, look, we all want secure borders. We all think that people, who are here illegally should do it the legal way. But, there's an overreach there where where they supposedly in Chicago were banning like little children.
Exactly. That is crazy. That is outrageous. I'm sorry.
The only reason they do that is because they can dehumanize. When you can dehumanize any person, you can do anything to them. And when you dehumanize them and categorize them as immigrants, Hispanic, whatever, you dehumanize them, then you can do whatever you want to them. And you can't relate. You can't relate to them as people.
Yeah,
So
Jill,
Jill's
you got
talking
a
about.
question. Please answer that question.
Okay, Jill's talking about search warrants. What do you think of the agents not identifying themselves or showing warrants? So here's my take on it. If the ICE agents are in imminent fear of danger, they should reveal themselves. They're not undercover drug agents. So sometimes
Exactly.
undercover drug agents cover their face because they might be working around the corner from where they're doing a search warrant.
Right.
You have to present a search warrant whenever you do it, and you have to leave a return when you leave whatever it is you're searching. And the search warrant has to have a description of the home, the building, whatever, and you have to present that if there's somebody there on scene. And I'm not exactly sure if they're not presenting warrants. If there is something called there is an exception to the law. What is that, Vanessa? Help me out here. When people can go into a house or building when they're chasing somebody or exigent circumstances.
Oh gosh.
No,
It's
exigent circumstances.
exigent circumstance.
So whether
Yes,
you're in pursuit of somebody or you think somebody's life's in danger, you can go into a house
Right.
or a building. But
Right.
I don't think these are exigent circumstance situations. These are planned raids, and you do have to present a search warrant and a return. And I don't like it. I don't like the covered faces at all. I think that's a bad look for law enforcement. Why are you trying to hide? If you are who you are, why are you trying to hide?
Exactly. And I will say that what they're doing is criminal. It's criminal and cruel. And one of our Derek Henry said that those are not masks. They're called Pooh Shiesty. I remember there's a rapper called Pooh Shiesty. I don't know that those masks were called Pooh Shiesty, but thank you for those.
We get it, Derek.
Yeah. Jill says there's been such an influx of money. She's not convinced all these armed people on the street are trained officers. Probably not. They're getting paid a whole lot of money. These ICE agents are. If you acted under the true color of law, you don't need a mask or a Pooh Shiesty. That's what Derek Henry says. I think he's agreeing with you, Jim. I agree with you, Jim. I think what they're doing in Chicago, and that goes back to our viewer talking about, the National Guard coming in. What about ICE coming in doing those horrible things to people in Chicago under the color of, we're working on behalf of the government to get rid of immigrants? And then you have the current administrator firing judges before these people can even go through due process, which is something Jim has talked about on this show. It's important that we follow the Constitution and that people be allowed due process. When you start messing with that, you're talking about dismantling democracy as we know it as Americans. And we have to ask ourselves, is that something that we really want? I don't care if it's the current administrator or if it's the one that was before him. That is not what America is about.
Yeah. Amen.
Kenneth Reed says he learned about this on Sirius XM channel 126 Urban View. I listen to Urban View as well, and on podcast hosted by Don Lemon. I don't watch him too much, and hosted by Joy Reid. She's been making the circuit. They used to be on CNN and MSNBC respectively. They are free to tell the truth. Okay.
And nobody tells the truth out there. That's a really unfortunate part. We want to tell the truth on this show, and we want our colleagues to hold us accountable if they think we're not telling the truth, because we don't have an agenda when it comes to telling the truth. We want to tell the truth.
Absolutely. Do you have?
I would say something real quick. I don't think, from watching Joy Reid, and I didn't watch Don Lemon a lot, but I saw Joy Reid. I don't think she held back from speaking her mind, and I assume the same with Don Lemon. Whether everything they said was 100% factual, I don't know, but they certainly weren't handcuffed from telling the truth from their perspective. So
yeah.
And thank you, Derek Henry. What about the first and the second and the third and fourth? And
the United States
sixth
Constitution.
And 14th and
right, exactly. What about yes? And when to your point, Allan, I don't think she was not telling the truth, but I also think that she
Her
was
opinion.
holding back a lot. If you watch any of her interviews as of late, um, she is no holds barred. Okay, she's really it looks very different than that when she was on MSNBC. Okay, so
Uh,
that's my opinion. I don't watch Don Lemon. I mean, I'm not going to say I dislike Don Lemon. I just don't watch the show.
right.
Well, it is 9:30. We will be back Friday, and we will be back on Saturday. Saturday, we're going to have some guests on Saturday, so we want you guys to stay tuned. We do want you to join us again this Friday evening at 8:30 p.m. We want to tell you thank you so much, Jill, Derek, Deborah, Kenneth, Mr. 1213, Edward, Derek, Mr. Duckett, Kenneth, Karen Winston, Miss Sheila, I don't like my music, who has been commenting all evening long. Michael Evans, Gwendolyn Mitchell, G Money Hollywood, thank you. Eric Brown, um, as well as Edward A., Deborah Harris, Dominique Richmond, Deborah G, what's going on? Jill Sheridan. Thank you all for commenting. Thank you all, True Sensation. Thank you for joining us. Janet Overall. I'm trying to get everybody. Eric Brown, and don't forget to watch Reality Strikes on Monday evenings at 8:30. Thank you guys so much for joining Karen Winston. Thank you guys so much for joining Detroit in Black and White. If I missed your name, charge it to my head, not my heart. We love you. We want you guys to come back and join us on Friday evening. Thank you so much, Detroit Black and White. We're out.